Imagine lying in a hospital bed. The pain keeps you awake. A gentle woman in a white apron leans over you. She smiles. Her touch is comforting. Her voice is calm. She promises you medicine to ease the pain, to help you sleep. You close your eyes, believing you are safe. But when you wake, if you wake, you find that she wasn't healing you. She was studying you, watching you die slowly, savoring the moment. This is the story of Jane Toppan, a nurse who confessed to killing dozens of people in the late 1800s and early 1900s. She wasn't driven by greed. She wasn't driven by hate. She killed because she loved it. She admitted her goal in life was to kill more people than anyone else. History remembers her as Jolly Jane, but there was nothing jolly about her. Chapter 1. Broken Childhood. Jane Toppan was not born Jane Toppan. Her real name was Honora Kelly, and she entered the world in 1854 in Boston, Massachusetts. Her life began in tragedy. Her mother died of tuberculosis when Jane was still very young. Her father, Peter Kelly, was an alcoholic and reportedly abusive. Locals called him Kelly the Crack, a nickname suggesting madness. Some accounts even claim he tried to sew his eyelids shut while working as a tailor. A disturbing glimpse into the unstable household Jane grew up in. With her mother gone and her father unfit to care for her, Honora was placed in an orphanage at just 6 years old. She never saw her family again. At the orphanage, she was eventually indentured to a wealthy family, the Toppans. She worked as a servant, not a daughter. She scrubbed, cleaned, and obeyed. Chapter 2. Jolly Jane. In the late 1800s, nursing was considered an honorable profession. Nurses cared for the vulnerable, brought comfort to the sick, and often became trusted members of families. Jane Toppan entered nursing school at Cambridge Hospital. At first, she thrived. She was cheerful, friendly, and outgoing. Patients and staff called her Jolly Jane for her humor and warmth. But behind that friendly mask, Jane was experimenting. She had access to medicines, powerful ones like morphine and atropine. She began using them not just for treatment, but for curiosity. She wanted to see how patients reacted when the doses were altered. Would they grow weak? Would they convulse? Would they slip into unconsciousness? Jane started using her patients like test subjects. And as the experiments grew, so did her fascination with death. She didn't just want to treat the sick. She wanted to control life and death itself. Chapter 3. First Murders. Jane's early experiments blurred the line between medicine and murder. She would administer morphine to slow a patient's breathing, then counteract it with atropine to increase their heart rate. The push and pull gave her control, but soon, curiosity turned into thrill. Jane began killing patients deliberately. Some were elderly, some were young. Many trusted her completely. They believed her smile. They believed her care. She poisoned them slowly, then sat by their bedsides, watching them suffer. She later confessed that she derived a dark, twisted pleasure from seeing them die, especially when she could crawl into bed with them and hold them as they slipped away. She wasn't killing for money. She wasn't killing for revenge. She was killing for the pleasure of death itself, and that made her one of the most terrifying killers in American history. Chapter 4. Trail of Poison. By the 1890s, Jane was moving freely between private homes and hospitals. Families trusted her as a nurse for hire. That trust was fatal. She killed landlords. She killed patients. She even killed her close friends. In one case, she poisoned a friend named Mary McNear simply because she wanted to. In another, she murdered her foster sister, Elizabeth Brigham, with morphine, later saying it was out of jealousy. The deaths kept piling up, yet no one suspected Jane. In the Victorian era, Death was common. Illnesses struck suddenly, and medical records were poor. Morphine was widely used, and overdoses weren't unusual. Jane's cheerful personality helped her escape suspicion. She was Jolly Jane, the nurse who always smiled, who always seemed helpful. But beneath the laughter, she was calculating her next kill. Chapter 5: Ambition of a Killer. Most killers stop when they feel satisfied. Jane never did. She admitted her darkest desire. Her goal was to kill more people, helpless people, than any other man or woman who ever lived. This wasn't about greed. This wasn't about hate. This was about power. She wanted to be remembered as the greatest killer in history. And she was well on her way. Chapter 6: The Davis Murders. By the turn of the century, Jane's crimes were escalating. She wanted to kill people she knew, people who trusted her deeply. In 1901, Jane set her sights on the Davis family, who lived in Catawba, Massachusetts. They had welcomed her into their home, treating her as a friend. But behind her smiles, Jane had already chosen them as her next victims. She began with Alden Davis, the patriarch of the family. She slipped him doses of morphine until his body gave in. His sudden death shocked the household, but no one suspected Jane. Next, she poisoned his sister, Edna Bannister, who had come to help the grieving family. Then she turned her attention to Alden's two daughters, Genevieve and Mary Gibbs. Each of them trusted Jane completely. Each of them died under her care. One by one, Jane wiped out nearly the entire Davis family. But this time, her ambition caught up with her. The sheer number of deaths, all clustered together, raised suspicion. Family members who remained alive demanded answers. The authorities were finally called in. For the first time, Jane Toppan's mask began to crack. Chapter 7: Arrest. When investigators looked closer at the Davis family deaths, things didn't add up. These weren't random tragedies. They were too sudden, too consistent. Suspicion grew, and Jane's cheerful persona couldn't protect her anymore. The bodies were exhumed, autopsies were performed, and the results were shocking. Traces of morphine and atropine were found. The evidence pointed straight to Jane. Only she had access. Only she had been present for every single death. In October 1901, Jane Toppan was arrested. The newspapers exploded with headlines. A nurse, a smiling, trusted nurse, was accused of being a serial killer. The public was horrified. But the horror was just beginning. Because once Jane was in custody, she began to talk. And what she revealed stunned the world. Chapter 8: Confession. At first, investigators believed Jane had killed a handful of people. Maybe 4, maybe 5. But when she began confessing, the truth was far darker. Jane calmly admitted to killing more than 31 people. She described how she poisoned patients, how she lay next to them in bed, holding them as they died. She explained that she loved the power, loved the control of deciding who lived and who died. One officer reportedly said, "She talks of death as if she were discussing the weather." Jane Toppan was no ordinary criminal. She was something the courts of the time struggled to define. Chapter 9: Trial. Jane Toppan's trial began in 1902. The courtroom was packed. Reporters filled the benches, desperate to capture every detail of the smiling nurse who claimed to have killed dozens. Jane lived out the rest of her life behind asylum walls. She died in 1938, at the age of 84. By then, most of the world had forgotten her. But in the shadows of true crime history, her legacy remained. Jane Toppan wasn't just a killer. She was a reminder that evil doesn't always come in shadows. Sometimes it wears a uniform. Sometimes it carries a kind smile. And sometimes It waits patiently by your bedside.